Hi, this is Joy Robertson. As many of you know, I love food. I love finding new restaurants. I love trying new dishes. And most of all, I love talking to the many great restaurateurs and entrepreneurs we have here in the Ozarks and beyond. I love hearing their stories, and that's what this podcast is all about, learning more about them and their journey. So join me as we savor the Ozarks. This episode is brought to you by Arctic Food Equipment. Okay, this is a special Savor the Ozarks today. I am sitting in Chicago with someone who spent some time in Springfield. He is a chef. His name is James Cardelli. And I just met you, James, 10 minutes ago. And I really don't know a whole lot about you, except that you graduated out of the culinary program at OTC. Right. Thanks for coming into the city to meet with me today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming down here and hosting me to chat about all this stuff.
I'm eager to chat with you. And by the way, big shout out for the Bass Pro Shops ball cap. Little shout out to home. Are you from Springfield?
No, actually, originally I'm from California. So I grew up in Humboldt County. I lived there for most of my life. Most of my family's still there, or somewhere in California. But then I moved to Springfield probably 8 or 9 years ago now. Yeah. Okay,
so you weren't in Springfield too terribly long. What age were you when you wound up in Springfield?
So initially I had moved out there with my sister. She was getting married to a guy that lived out there. And I was probably 22, 23. And then they ended up moving back to California. I ended up moving back and forth between California and Missouri for a little bit, and then ended up just settling in Missouri after a few back and forths. So I would say probably finally settled there around 24, 25 years old.
Okay, so at some point, OTC landed on your radar, right, and the culinary program. When did you start that?
A bit fuzzy with all the dates because I moved around a lot, but I want to say, if I'm doing math correct, it was like 2018 is when I started, or end of 2017 possibly. I just remember that COVID hit in 2019, and there was a big kerfuffle with one of my classes, and being able to graduate in a timely manner. So, yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, the whole world was in a big kerfuffle at that time. Okay, so you wind up at OTC's culinary program, but what got you interested in that to begin with? Did you grow up cooking? Like, who taught you to cook, or did you kind of just start with the program?
Yeah, no, I didn't grow up cooking. I had a pretty rough childhood, actually, so I didn't really gain a lot of like cooking insights or culinary knowledge from anybody growing up. I initially started cooking just as a means of survival, and I just kind of ran with it. I started out at a little restaurant in Springfield, Jimm Steakhouse, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
I have had Jim Swafford on the podcast. Love Jim's.
Yeah, so I was there for a few years, but I started out there, was working on dish, and I just had a natural inclination to want to do more and be more, and so I, pushed as hard as I can in that restaurant to do everything I could do there. Eventually, a chef came along, Chris Nutt. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's been there for quite a while. He really encouraged me to go to school and start, looking into doing the chef thing seriously, and I kind of blew him off initially and was like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. Like, I'm just doing this because I'm trying to survive right now, And so, yeah, eventually I kind of just sat back and thought about it and was like, well, I guess I don't really have much to lose if I go to school, So I just ended up going.
So you were working at Jimm's, it was just a job. You just needed a job. Right. So you wound up there. But was that your first restaurant job?
I'd tell everybody it was my first restaurant job. Technically, my first restaurant job was in Texas, but we'll talk about that at a different time.
Man, you have been around the block. I just want to back up a second, and if this is too personal, tell me. But you said you had kind of a rough childhood and you moved around a lot, and you were just trying to survive. What do you mean by that?
Well, I didn't. I grew up with family that was pretty prominent in my town in California. The dad was actually a pastor, but I had been adopted by them at a very young age. So, yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother story.
Well, I don't want to drag you down a road that gets too personal or uncomfortable.
Yeah. That I mean, nothing good came out of that for me or my siblings. So, from then on, I was kind of in and out of the court system, judicial system of California, and
So it sounds like you were on your own to some degree.
Yeah.
Maybe got in a little trouble. We don't have to go down that road.
Right.
But you wanted out of that and to find your way.
Right. So, I mean, growing up in that environment, I just felt like I never really belonged anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so, I was always trying to fight my way to wherever I felt like would accept me next,
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like when you came with your sister to Springfield and you found some degree of happiness there because you stayed and you came back at one point. It sounds to me like working maybe at Jimm's Steakhouse and this chef at some point who encouraged you may have really, really turned a corner for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I tell people is like, I was definitely in survival mode when I was at Jimm's, just there to collect a paycheck and make some money and be able to live. But I was actually homeless for the first 6 months or so that I worked there.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you manage being homeless and holding a job down? I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, by that age, I had already been pretty well educated on how to survive, on my own. So it was just second nature, and I took a lot of risks I probably shouldn't have. But
You're street smart.
Yeah, so to speak.
You survived it. So you're at Jimm's. Was the chef that encouraged you? Was he at Jimm's Steakhouse?
Yeah, and I think he's still there. I haven't talked to him for a while, but every time I go down there, I usually stop by there and say, hey, what's up to everybody. So, but yeah.
So you said you were doing, did you say dish at Jimm's? Is that the term you used?
Yeah, so I was a dishwasher. That's where I started.
Dishwasher. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so you started as a dishwasher at Jimm's.
Right.
But at some point, you moved into the food space.
Correct, yeah. So, like I said earlier, I have like this natural ambition and inclination to want to do more and be more, and regardless of what environment I've been in, that's just always been the way I was. So eventually I got onto the hotline cooking, and that's when I had met Chris Nutt, the chef there.
So when you started on this hotline cooking, did you go willingly, or did they say, James, get up here and do this? I mean, what was your comfort level at that point? Did you just take to it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely went willingly. In fact, I was kind of more of the one to force the issue than anything. So, yeah, I mean, there was a great group of guys that worked on the line then. I'm actually still friends with a lot of them. Shout out to Kevin Loper. He's down in Missouri now still. Not in Springfield, but he was one of my buddies there that really advocated for me to be able to move around and not just be stuck on washing dishes my whole life. So, but yeah, no, I definitely forced the issue a lot. I definitely pushed, and yeah.
And it worked. And you realize there's something to this, and then the people around you notice that you had an inclination for it, and then you hear about this culinary program at OTC. When you went to check it out, what did you think when you looked at the curriculum and the program and all of that? And I'm assuming you met Chef Daniel Pliska at that point, maybe talked about the program, or no? How did you? What was your first foray into OTC like when you went to check it out?
Yeah, so I'll have to rewind a little bit. So I initially went to college when I was 18 for chemistry. In my hometown, College of the Redwoods. Ended up breaking both of my feet after jumping out of a second-story building, so I kind of dropped out after that.
Okay, don't do that.
Yeah, no, definitely don't recommend it. But fast forward to culinary school. So when I initially went there, I Chris Nutt, the chef at Jimm's, had pushed me to go there, and I was like, dude, I've been to school before. It's not really for me. Like, I'm good at math. I'm good at English. I know how to do tests, but I just don't care to do it. You know what I mean? And so I kind of had that attitude going there. And Daniel Pliska wasn't actually even there when I first went, or started taking classes. It was actually John Scritchfield who was in my 101, and he was a super cool dude. And he was very welcoming and very just pleasant guy to be around, and I ended up working with him at the country club, Twin Oaks Country Club, with him after my first semester, and I was there for most of I want to say 2018 into 2019, possibly. I could have my dates a little bit off, but it was for a good amount of time. So Pliska didn't actually show up until about a year into the program. But me and him instantly just had a good connection and really built a rapport pretty quickly. And he was like the big badass chef that everybody looked up to, and had all the acclaim and all the experience and knowledge. So that's kind of what I was after.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a resume, really, and he's good at it. I think he knows talent when he sees it, and it sounds like he saw something in you. What did you think of the program? I mean, you must have learned a lot there.
Yeah, so as far as the program went, I didn't know one thing from another then, but it was a great program for me. Really strong fundamentals. The instructors there were very, well seasoned and knew what they were doing, and were excellent teachers in my opinion, or instructors. Yeah, so I ate it up. I loved every second of it. I was there more often than not, even when I didn't have class. I was always bugging somebody there. I don't know. I've always been hyper ambitious, and so I was trying to soak up as much as I could, as quick as I could.
Well, having worked at Jimm's, you would be exposed to a lot of inner workings of a restaurant, but there's so much more to it. Like there's some vernacular, there's words, there's terms that people in that industry will throw out that most of us common folk like me have never heard. So that had to make a huge difference in your knowledge base and your experience to be able to get out and work at other restaurants.
Yeah, working at Jimm's, I would say was probably the most basic job I've had in the culinary industry. He's a steakhouse. He does steaks, you know what I mean? So
and does them really well.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's not a lot of complex, ingredients or technique. It was very much just like the basics and really the fundamentals of working in a kitchen and cooking, so to speak. But they do a lot of volume, so that was a great experience to have. Not everybody gets to see high volume restaurants. Not everybody is able to survive in a high volume restaurant. Not everybody's, even wants to work in a high volume restaurant. And so, I think a big portion of what I took away from Jimm's was mostly just like that sense of urgency and being able to work in a high volume, high pressure, rapidly moving environment. So,
did you know at that time kind of what sort of cuisine you really wanted to specialize in? Did you have a favorite food or anything like that you really wanted to learn?
So after I started culinary school, I kind of, started looking around at different restaurants in the cities and cuisines, and really started trying to figure out what I was going to do with all of it. And one big name that I landed on was Grant Achatz. At the time,
Alinea.
yeah, at the time, he was everybody's favorite chef. Everybody talked about him. He was doing the coolest stuff, and he was in the Midwest, so that probably had a lot to do with it. But yeah, that was a big one for me in the beginning. Was like everybody wanted to go work for Grant Achatz. Everybody wanted to be the guy, who learned all the molecular gastronomy and all the weird food manipulation and whatnot, and work in a Michelin-starred restaurant. And so kind of that's what I landed on. You know what I mean? It's like everybody wanted to do this, and I wanted to be the guy that actually did it, because everybody talked about doing it, but I wanted to be the guy that actually did it. And so that's kind of the direction I was leaning when I was working with Pliska, even though he tried to steer me away from it. I was pretty adamant, so.
So Pliska's thinking, okay, you've got these big dreams of molecular gastronomy, which I don't even know how to describe that, but you'll know it if you see it. You really want to do that, and you really want to learn that. So you found a balance, I guess, between everything you learned at OTC and then keeping your eye on what you really wanted to do. And at one point, I guess you graduate out of the program and you decide you're going to move to Chicago. What was that like? Because Alinea and Grant are here.
Yeah, so just to correct the record, I actually didn't graduate out of OTC before I moved. I had a couple classes to go, and it was COVID time, and so that was kind of put on hold. In the meantime, I'd actually reached out to a different chef, Curtis Duffy, of Ever, formerly of Grace, and I wanted to stage there. They were new. It was like they had just closed Grace after a couple years, I believe, but he had attained a 3rd star as well. So in my eyes, it was same thing as Alinea, or he actually worked with Grant and Alinea for a while. In my eyes, it was equal thing. So I emailed them every day for like 6 months at noon to get a stage there, because I knew it was like highly competitive, and I knew that like it was COVID, or towards the end of COVID at that point, and so I knew it wasn't going to be like an easy thing to do, and it took me 6 months of emails to finally get a response. And they said, yeah, you can come up and do a stage, but you have to do a whole week. And it's on.
So they sort of give you a little trial run?
Yeah. So, I mean, a stage anywhere in the industry is...
What's it called?
It's a stagiaire is the French term, but it's usually shortened to just stage. And it's basically like a hyper competitive and very intense internship. So I finally got a response after 6 months, and they were very detailed and specific on what I had to wear, the tools I had to bring, like the expectations I was going to have. And so I was just immediately enthralled with it, and I went up there, did my week stage. I was just a country boy from Missouri at that point, but there's actually the chef de cuisine there, Justin Selk. He was from the Ozarks as well, from the Branson area, if I remember correctly. And so they didn't really have a spot for me at that time, but I had loved the city, and I'd loved the Michelin scene and kind of everything I had just experienced with that week stage at Ever, that I just decided to move to the city about 2 weeks later and figure it out after I got up here. So
they didn't have a spot for you at Ever, but did you find work somewhere else?
Yeah, so in that 2 weeks between the stage and moving, I had kind of networked and called around and submitted applications everywhere. And so I landed in a small kitchen called Fulton Market Kitchen, FMK. And the owner there, he's a Romanian guy, Relu Stan, and he gave me my first job in the city. Technically, only was there for about a month before I decided it wasn't really for me. But immediately from there, I saw the Linea Group was hiring, and so I went and submitted an application, and they called me in.
Really? Okay, so where did you work then?
So then I wanted to work at Alinea, right? Everybody wanted to work at Alinea, well, whatnot. But because everybody wants to work at Alinea, they're always getting applicants. They're always staffed or overstaffed. And so it's very competitive and not highly likely to get in there from the jump. But they offered me a job at Next, which is his one Michelin-starred restaurant in Fulton Market. And they are pretty unique. And so I took a job there and started off as a commis.
As a what?
A commis. So it's like the technically the lowest position in the kitchen. You're kind of doing prep and all the labor that everyone else doesn't want to do. And so like one of my first tasks was de-seeding juniper berries, which doesn't sound too hard, but if you've ever seen a juniper berry, they're very small. And they got 3 seeds in them, exactly 3 seeds in them. And you would have to, I'd have to split and de-seed up to 300 juniper berries almost every day. So it was pretty meticulous and tedious. And
the things the average person does not ever ponder when they go and sit down and a dish is put in front of them with a juniper berry, and you don't realize that somebody took the time to do that. I wouldn't know a juniper berry if it landed on my lap right now. I mean, I've heard of them. So that's the kind of, so you take whatever job you can get at that point. You're like, I want to work here, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And then I'm assuming you moved up?
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I've always had that attitude of like, I'll do whatever it takes to get what I want. So, yeah, I went unrealistically hard. Even as a commis, and I moved up pretty quickly. They put me on the line after about a month working in the basement, and I just kept going. Like I didn't slow down or stop, probably to my detriment. Yeah, I just kept whatever they threw at me or whatever tasks they gave me. I just kept going. Didn't matter, and so I learned a lot in the form of systems and just kind of techniques and discipline, organization, I mean, timeliness. I tell everybody like that I work with in kitchens now that I work in regular kitchens, like you have no idea how much time you actually have in a day. You know what I mean? Because, everybody thinks that they're running out of time or they're low on time or they don't have enough time to do this, that, or the third. And it's like, well, actually you really do. And so, yeah, I just kept pushing. I made it almost a year there. And after a while, it just, at the rate I was working and the little bit of listening that I did, I ended up burning myself up out of there. So, yeah, from there, I just expected like the entire Michelin scene was that same way. Highly competitive and very intense. And so I took a breather, ended up going to a hotel, a couple of different hotels. Really didn't like those environments after coming out of that highly competitive scene. Still had that piss and vinegar in me and wanted to, accomplish something. And that wasn't necessarily the environment of a union hotel in Chicago. And so I ended up jumping back in the Michelin scene after about a year or so of working in hotels.
So again, Next was part of a Alinea group, correct?
Right.
All right, so what did you do after you left hotels? Did you go back to the group?
No, so my motto is always move forward, never go back. So I wouldn't even allow myself to go back, even if they offered me $1 bajillion at this point. It's just, I've experienced it. I've got what I needed to get out of there, and so I'm going to keep moving. But I did end up going, there was a small one-star restaurant in Bucktown, which is now closed and has been closed for a while, called Claudia. Trevor Teach was the executive chef there, and he gave me a gig there when I decided I was done with the hotel. So jumped back into a Michelin-starred restaurant, but it was a different experience. He had a much different personality than the executive chefs I had worked with before, certainly much different than Grant. And his style and kind of his philosophy and the people that were working with him were much different than what I expected or even experienced.
In a good way?
Yeah. I mean, I liked all the guys there. Like, that was when people asked me what was, what kitchen did I like the most, that was probably the kitchen that I liked the most, and wanted to do the most with. And it probably had a lot to do with the experience differential between me and everybody else there, because most of them were like brand new to the scene, and so I kind of had that edge on them, and it was more like not necessarily a mentorship thing, but like a big brother type of relationship with them, to where it's like, all right, like, I've done all this already, and I've done it to the absolute pinnacle that you can do it.
You take care of the food, let us take care of the kitchen. Hi, I'm Nathan with Arctic Food Equipment. Our preventative maintenance program is trusted by local businesses all across Southwest Missouri. From front lobby ice machines to rooftop HVAC and everything in between, we have you covered. Don't let a breakdown slow you down. Call us today at 417-888-0100 and ask about our preventative maintenance program.
At Arctic Food Equipment, your success is our business always.
I looked at your Instagram, and I'm amazed at some of the food photographs that you have. I would advocate that anybody out there listening, I believe it's James Cardelli 23. Is that your Instagram? Look at some of the food that you've done. What were some of your favorite dishes that you came up with?
So I actually don't have as many photographs on Instagram as I probably should, because I have a lot more saved on my phone. But I've never really been big on social media, so maybe that's something I can change.
Oh, it's so pretty to look at, though. But these are the kind of dishes, if you're not familiar with this, it looks like a work of art. Like there's color, there's vibrancy, there's food there, and it doesn't look like the plate of food you would get in the Midwest when they set it down in front of you, right? I mean, I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, it's definitely more of the artistic side of things than it is just like, feeding people, or it's not functional food. You're not going to eat this meal every single night. You're not going to come to this restaurant every single week. You know what I mean? This is like a experience. It's like a destination spot, similar to going to like a theater production or a musical or, orchestra or what have you. And so the food is definitely not something that people see all the time. A lot of the dishes and a lot of the flavors are things that people are familiar with or super familiar with, but there's always that play with higher end ingredients and kind of unique ingredients to the area that a lot of people don't get to experience.
So when you go into a place, and I've not been to Alinea, and by the way, if those of you, I've mentioned Alinea so many times on this podcast, and I've never even been there. Okay. But if you go to, I believe it's on Netflix, it's called The Chef's Table.
That's correct.
And there's all these different chefs that they profile. And Grant, how do you say his last name? Achatz. I never get it right. Yeah, he is one that I could watch that episode over and over and over. I mean, it's almost like there's a little bitty plate, some tweezers, and some food that I don't really understand what it is. There's always the balloon thing at the end that I really want to go there and eat sometime. I really, really do. But this is not the kind of cuisine that like you said, it's not something you're going to have every single day. But if you're not familiar, you should watch that episode of the Chef's Table, and you'll know. But anyway, is this still the sort of cuisine you love?
I mean, today, it's very cool, it's very modern, and it's very, it impresses a lot of people. But it's not, and to achieve that level of art requires a lot of dedication and a lot of time. And I kind of wanted to do other things in my life than just work, and completely submit myself to the kitchen. And so, as cool as it is, and as much as I enjoyed the food I did and the environment I was in, it wasn't sustainable for me. Even at Claudia, you know what I mean, I was probably working better part of 12 hours a day. At Next, I'd been working 15 hours a day on average.
And some of these plates that come out of the kitchen really is kind of a bite, right? A bite or two?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a big misconception with people that, like, they see these big plates and this small amount of food, and they think, oh, you know, I'm eating 2 bites of food, and I'm never going to get full from this, blah, 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 blah. But what they don't understand is, like, it's 10 courses, right? So if you have, 10 courses with 3 ounces of food on each plate, that's still 30 ounces of food, still quite a bit of food,
And I've had people tell me it's the best bites of food they've ever had in their lives.
Correct, yeah, and that's kind of our goal, is like, what can we do to make this the best experience possible?
So you've been there, done that, and you're moving now, or you have moved over to Indiana. What are you up to now?
Yeah, so I actually have to interject. After I left Claudia, they abruptly closed. I went to Temporis with the chef Troy George.
Okay.
He was probably my biggest mentor in Chicago. I had moved there because we had a similar background, and I mean, I moved there for completely selfish reasons, but shout out to Troy George. He's a great chef. It's all over the social medias, and he's actually over at Akanto now, which I spent some time with him over there as well, but just got to interject that there. So yeah, Northwest Indiana. I had moved down to Indiana through Pliska. I had met or been introduced to a guy, Billy Parisi.
I know Billy Parisi, kind of, sort of. I've never met him, but when I was doing work for the Food Channel, Billy provided content for Food Channel, so we're Facebook friends. Seems like a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a wonderful guy. He had worked for Pliska 20 years ago or so.
Really?
Yeah, at the University Club while he was going to college, I believe.
Oh, at Mizzou?
Yeah. He was just like a daytime cook there. If I remember the story correctly, I'll let him.
I'll be darned. I had no idea.
Yeah. So that's kind of the mutual connection we had, was through Pliska. He had, every time I went down to Springfield while living in the city, I would stop by and chat with Pliska, and he'd always tell me, oh, Billy Parisi, he's up in Chicago, you should meet this guy, blah, 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 blah. At that point, I was like, dude, like, I work in the Michelin scene. I've met all the cool, famous people, like, blah, 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 blah. Didn't really move the needle much for me, so I kind of, again, blew him off. It's kind of the habit of mine is, people suggest something to me. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, sure. And so, so I didn't really even think about it until towards the end of my time here in Chicago, and Pliska reached out and was like, hey, I gave Billy your number, blah, 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 and then we started talking.
And then what happened?
He was telling me that he was opening a restaurant, and he was looking for a chef, and was asking if I'd be interested in it, and was like completely enamored with my experience and kind of what I've done and where I've been in the city, and had worked for Pliska, and Pliska had given me a glowing recommendation. I started traveling back and forth between the city and Northwest Indiana, just kind of meeting Billy and some of his partners and seeing the town, and kind of learning exactly what was going on and what they needed, and how I could help. And so took a couple months, but finally got settled, and I ended up moving down to Indiana. And so I'll be opening a restaurant with Billy Parisi and a couple other guys, Parisi's. It'll be Italian, kind of traditional Italian restaurant, kind of more of like a casual flair to it. very casual ambiance to it. His aim is to have it be like a traditional and fun, friendly environment, and so that should be opening up here in the next couple of months.
So that's what you're working on now, because I did see, I don't know, somewhere, maybe on your social, that you were working on helping open a restaurant. And of all people, it's Billy Parisi. Well, tell him I said hello, and he'll go, who? My Food Channel, go way back, think. I mean, Billy's good. I always enjoyed his content. I've actually learned a lot about cooking from watching his videos.
Yeah, he has a great YouTube channel, Chef Billy Parisi. He's done a lot of cooking channels. I kind of poke fun at him and tell him it's pretty basic, but I mean, he's very well spoken. He's very great at teaching and instructing, and really pays attention to like all the details through the process. So for anybody that's looking for new recipes or just instruction on how to cook, I mean, it's a great channel to watch for sure.
You know, Pliska's got his own website and some cookbooks and stuff too. He's good.
Yeah, Pliska too, yeah. I actually have a signed copy of his pastry techniques book. He just launched a website recently, as far as I'm aware of. You'll have to forgive me because I don't exactly remember the URL for that, but I'm sure you could just Google Chef Pliska and it'll pop up pretty quick.
Oh, it will. It will. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food largely depends on my mood. What I'm missing in Northwest Indiana right now is Chinese food, or kind of like the, cheap Chinese spots that you have in the city. So yeah, that's probably what I'm missing the most in Northwest Indiana.
Where did you enjoy eating when you were in Springfield? I know you worked at Jimm's, and Jimm's got a great menu. You get all sorts of great stuff there, but is there any kind of Springfield food that you miss?
Of course, cashew chicken. Okay. I think my favorite restaurant in Springfield, while I was living there anyway, was Rickshaw down on the square. I probably ate there more than I ate anywhere else. Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere for a while.
That's awesome. So, do you have a family?
I do have a family. A very large family. I was adopted, so there's a lot of extended family and people I consider family, even if we're not blood related. But as far as like direct family, my mom and my sister live in California. I have a daughter in Springfield, Missouri. Her favorite place to go is Bass Pro, which is kind of why I have the hat. And I've got family all over the place, all over the United States. So, yeah.
So you do have a child. She's not here.
Correct. Yeah, she's 5. She lives in Missouri with her mom.
How often do you get back there?
I try to get down there 3 to 4 times a year. Usually the big holidays, birthdays. I usually visit Springfield 3 to 4 times a year, I'd say.
Do you have any other hobbies besides cooking?
Yeah, of course. I play a lot of chess now.
Yeah, you mentioned, because where are we sitting right now? I forget where. This is a great spot. You found a nice, quiet spot for us to talk. Where are we?
We're at Dearborn Station. It's an old railroad station in Chicago that's been reformatted to be a small shopping center. It's got a lot of doctors and lawyers and Pilates and whatnot. There used to be a chess center here. It has since moved, but...
And you said you used to come here and play chess.
Yeah, quite frequently. I was pretty often around in a lot of chess circles in Chicago. Spent a lot of time at the Chess Pavilion on the lake, down here at Dearborn Station, and in various restaurants and Starbuckses and whatnot around the city.
What is it about chess that drew you in?
Probably, I would say, just it was a game I got into many years ago, kind of casually, playing with friends, playing online. It was so deep and complex for me that it kind of sated that thirst of like my pursuit of knowledge. It was like I could study chess for my whole life and still not have it figured out, and so that was one thing that kind of attracted me towards it, and also the fact that regardless of what happens in the game or what happens at the end, like everything was your decision, everything was your fault, and there's no way around it, and so it was a great mental training tool for me. And a great way to connect with other people, and yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of thought, a lot of strategy, a lot of quiet. It's quiet, but maybe not in your head. It's not as quiet when you're trying to figure out where to go next.
Yeah, I mean, lots of strategy, just lots of general life lessons can be learned through chess, I feel. It is a very quiet sport or game.
What life lesson does it teach you?
I mean, there's many. When you're playing with a clock, you have to make decisions on time. You have to really study what you're doing. You have to be able to control your emotions. There's a lot of life lessons that come out of playing chess, as with anything. But chess was just something I was drawn towards for some reason.
I've never been a chess player, and maybe that explains the reason I am why I am. I should have paid more attention. It's never too late. Who taught you how to play?
I kind of taught myself how to play. I had a girlfriend when I was very young that was pretty good at chess, and so I always wanted to compete with her. And so I started learning how to play chess, and I just watched a million hours of YouTube videos of chess, people that played chess, and explained chess to me. So, yeah.
Okay, so it's a Sunday afternoon right now. You're going to be going to work, I guess, this week, trying to open this restaurant. What all goes into opening this restaurant?
A lot, and a lot more than I've ever really seen or experienced. So that's been a great opportunity for me.
Are you helping develop the menu?
I am, yeah. I've been fortunate to sit in on a lot of different things. We went to Chicago booth to look at the booths and tables and chairs and fabrics. So that was pretty neat. Went to Steel Light to look at plates and cups and bowls and all that fun stuff, and that was pretty exciting. And then I've seen the demo done. I've met all the business partners, and I'm helping Billy kind of develop the menu. He's got a great foundation. Again, very, very simple and easy to execute menu, which is great when you're opening a restaurant. And so it'll kind of be my job and my purview to see where we can go with it.
Do you think you'll ever open a restaurant of your own?
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, at this point, it could go either way. I could stay with somebody and help them open 100 restaurants, or I could, go out on my own and try to do my own thing. I'm still trying to figure out that path exactly, but it's a potential.
If you're visiting Chicago and you want to visit Parisi's, take you long to get there?
It depends on when you're driving.
Okay, yeah.
Traffic in the city can be pretty wild. If you're going during any regular eating time, coming from Chicago, it's going to be an hour 20 minutes, I would say. I grew up in California, so I'm used to driving an hour just to go to the gas station. So for me, it's not a problem. But for people that didn't grow up in California and aren't used to driving long distances, an hour can be quite some time. But hopefully it'll be a impactful enough spot that we'll have people coming down.
And remind me, it's called Parisi's, and remind me where it is and when it opens.
So the location is on the square in Crown Point, Indiana. I can't remember the exact address at this time, but yeah, I mean, if you know Crown Point or put it into Google Maps, it'll pop up pretty quick. It'll be right there on the square, front and center. So, and we're scheduled to open early next year. Don't have a specific date yet. We just finished demolitions, and they're starting on construction of the inside of the place. So once we get all that wrapped up and get permits and everything squared away, then we'll be open.
To be determined. Real quick, I noticed there was something on your social media. You were blindfolded. You were doing something in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
What were you doing?
Yeah, that was my most viral clip I've ever taken, out of the 3 clips I've ever taken. In that video, I was deboning a chicken, I believe, blindfolded. So, yeah. Just speaks to how many chickens I've broken down over the years, I guess.
Well, I watched the video and I couldn't, it's been a while, I couldn't remember exactly what you were doing, but I thought, yeah, that takes a little bit of skill to be able to do that blindfolded. But that just speaks to the level of experience that you've had and the things that you've learned over the years. And starting out as a dishwasher in Springfield, Missouri, and look at what you've done is amazing, the things that you've accomplished. And I think it's only up from here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't always look at it that way. I always feel like, I could accomplish more, but when I do sit down and think about it, I have accomplished quite a bit, and I've come a long way, so I'm pretty proud of that.
I don't know much about culinary schools. You hear about culinary schools and people who've been to CIA, Culinary Institute, all these different places. Ozarks Technical Community College culinary program is nothing to sneeze at. It's impressive.
Yeah. It's a great program. Again, if you're getting into cooking and want to learn, especially with Pliska being there, who has a wealth of knowledge from all over the world, I would highly recommend checking it out.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for spending time with me on Savor the Ozarks. Chef James Cardelli spent time in Springfield, came to Chicago. You wanted in with this group. You got in with the Alinea group. You've done what you've wanted to do, and it's only up from here. I'm impressed, and I want to keep up with what you're doing. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me.
Yeah, thanks for coming up here and being able to see me and letting me share my story.
Be sure to go to AroundTheOzarks.com to sign up for our daily newsletter where you can get every episode of Savor the Ozarks, plus all our other podcasts, events, and contests straight to your inbox. And what are your favorite dishes in the 417? If you have any restaurants you'd like me to visit, email me at joy@AroundTheOzarks.com.